Good afternoon, this is BBC News. We start today with some breaking news coming from the North Sea. It has been reported that several oil rigs have suffered large explosions. Currently, the cause is unclear, however the damage does appear to be significant. We currently only have images of 3 rigs mid-explosion, but it is rumored that as many as 10 different rigs have suffered catastrophic damage across a certain region of the North Sea. Currently, there are no accurate numbers when it comes to potential casualties. However, each rig which is known to have exploded did have a full crew operating it at the time, leading some to believe that this could be a huge mass casualty event in the hundreds to even low thousands either dead or injured. There are currently huge rescue efforts being mounted from the UK, Ireland, Iceland, Denmark, Germany, Sweden, and Norway, as well as the United States pledging search and rescue efforts over the coming hours. Many of the casualties will be either British or Scandinavian workers, particularly Danes, due to the location of the affected oil rigs being around the Dan oil field, which falls within the Danish sector of the North Sea. Several days ago, the Dan oil field was subject to international attention as a large, previously unknown, gas pocket was discovered. Whether this is anything to do with the series of explosions which have been occurring across the sector is unknown at this time. We understand that military and medical helicopters will transport surviving victims to the mainland of the UK, Germany, and Denmark for specialist treatment depending on their wounds and the severity of the injuries, while evacuation efforts will also be mounted from the sea to secure any workers with no or minor injuries. Specialist fire crews and oil rig specialists are also being deployed to the area to quell the fires and safely secure the area. The fate of the oil rigs is unclear, as the full extent of the damage is currently unknown. However, if the rigs are to be scrapped or are too far damaged to operate again, it will cost the global oil market billions in both money and oil assets, and thus this is a severely important global situation occurring right now. We'll bring you more on this story as it develops. We have more updates on the developing disaster occurring within the North Sea. A representative from the multinational task force operating in the area charged with rescuing the trapped workers has told BBC News that it can confirm that around 1,000 workers are expected to have died so far in this tragedy. I repeat, at least 1,000 workers of these oil rigs have died in the series of explosions which took place earlier today across the Dan oil field in the North Sea. They have also confirmed that around 1,500 injured have been extracted from the oil rigs and the seas around the rigs so far, with more still being rescued. These 1,500 range from minor to severe injuries and are currently being rushed off across multiple different countries for emergency treatment for burns and other injuries sustained. However, a strange development has occurred over the past half hour, that is that a hazy green fog or gas has been spotted emerging from the site of these explosions. Now the BBC have been in contact with several experts in the field of gas and oil extraction, and not one have as of yet been able to provide an answer to what this could be. Currently, the best explanation is that a mix of chemicals has caught fire somewhere aboard the rigs, causing this green fog to emerge. However, no one can pinpoint exactly what kind of chemical reaction would cause this, and even more, how has this occurred on several different rigs across the region. Several environmental agencies across Europe have voiced concern about an unknown chemical substance pouring into the air across the North Sea, with no knowledge of the danger it poses to both those crews in the area and the wildlife across the region. A solution to the gas is yet to be developed. However, we do understand that experts are currently theorizing what the gas could be and how to solve this situation. More updates on this situation will be provided once they become available. Good morning, this is BBC News. We start today with drastic developments which occurred overnight regarding the situation within the North Sea. We can confirm that the green gas which was emanating from the affected oil rigs, due to wind patterns, is expected to cover almost the entirety of Western Europe within the next 3 days. The exact makeup of this gas is still unclear, as attempts to sample it have been as of yet unsuccessful despite some discoveries being made. The UNEP, the United Nations Environment Programme, has declared this an environmental emergency due to properties of the gas which have been observed overnight. We understand that the gas is almost entirely toxic to human beings. All oil rig workers who were extracted alive from the rigs overnight have developed severe respiratory issues, with many of those coughing up a thick black and green phlegm-like substance. Some also report that the burns and cuts which the workers sustained in the explosions are seeping this green fluid, although these are currently unconfirmed rumors. We also know that dozens of rescue crews who attended the disaster have overnight developed the same respiratory problems, with many also being admitted into hospital with similar symptoms. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, early this morning made a statement on the situation, confirming the UK is quickly rushing through an ambitious nation-wide mask dispersal programme for the predicted spread of the gas over the British Isles. The Prime Minister said, quote, "The disaster which has occurred in the North Sea is of great concern to the entire world. I would like to deliver my sincerest condolences to the families of those caught up in the explosions, and would like to extend my full gratitude to the rescue crews who bravely assisted during this disaster. My government has been informed of the spread of the currently unknown green gas, as well as the potential link to extremely dangerous and painful respiratory issues when the gas is inhaled, and has decided to act fast. Over the next day, businesses across the United Kingdom will mass-produce breather masks for the population, as we brace for the gas to pass across our territory. Once we know the full nature of the currently unknown green gas, we will be able to implement countermeasures to stop its spread. However, the sudden nature of this incident means we are extremely short on time. This is a short-term fix, and I assure you, the government of the United Kingdom is working extremely closely with many world nations to find a swift solution to this spread. The BBC understands that predicted models showing the spread of the gas expect the entirety of the British Isles to be covered in this gas by the 25th of January, 3 days from now. However, we do understand that the gas will first hit the UK late tomorrow evening. A government alert will play after this broadcast to inform the citizens of the UK what to do if the gas hits and you do not have a breather mask ready. Images from the North Sea taken this morning show the gas completely coating the air and still rising from several now abandoned oil rigs. The interesting part is that it's settling on top of the sea and coagulating with the water, with it demonstrating oil consistency. Scientists remain almost entirely baffled, although many do now believe it to be a part of the newly discovered gas pocket around the Dan oil field several days ago. A theoretical chemist spoke to the BBC early this morning. She said, quote, "I believe there is the possibility that we have disturbed something within the Earth which had laid dormant for an unknown amount of time. We have almost no understanding of what this is, which shows it's something completely different to anything we have dealt with previously. My guess is this is some form of ancient gas which was buried within the Earth millions of years ago. We understand the world in that bygone era was a lot different and much more hostile to life, and this may be a remnant of that age. It is crucial we get an understanding of it fast, as what we have observed so far shows that the gas itself is not dispersing, it's staying together and spreading like an unfolding blanket across not just the air of our planet, but the ocean too. We do have some updates on the condition of many of the rescued workers that have arrived in the UK overnight, and unfortunately, it's not good news. The vast majority have begun to enter a comatose state as a result of the sheer amount of gas and chemicals they had inhaled aboard the rigs. Their burns and injuries are being treated with the most delicate care available, while many of them are being booked in for emergency surgeries as it appears their lungs are filled with the fluid they were previously coughing up. Medical professionals are attempting to drain the fluids, however, it is proving difficult due to the thick nature of the fluids inside the lungs of the workers. We all hope that a solution to this issue will be found with haste and the workers can soon be set on the mend after suffering such a tragic event. Now, the BBC will officially hand control of this broadcast over to the government's emergency alert system to give you instructions regarding the approaching gas. Please, listen closely.
This is the emergency alert system on behalf of His Majesty's government. Please stand by. This is the emergency alert system on behalf of His Majesty's government. The disaster in the North Sea has quickly developed into a continent-wide issue, with an unknown gas emerging from the site of the explosions. We can confirm that now, over 3,000 people have been affected by the explosions and subsequently the gas spread. Currently, experts have a limited knowledge of the gas and its origin. However, we have observed several different properties, which can prove to be hostile to human life. We understand that any amount of gas inhaled is proving poisonous to the human body. When the gas enters the body, it reacts with any fluids within, causing a thick substance to form within the organs. This is what the victims of the oil explosions have been coughing up. It appears as a thick black and green phlegm-like fluid, which has the consistency of thick motor oil. The presence of this is extremely hazardous, as it has been noted to get thicker and thicker until it completely blocks whatever organ it is present in. Currently, that is mainly the respiratory system, particularly the lungs. However, we have observed the presence of this fluid within the veins of some patients, and also we have observed a similar buildup within degraded muscle tissue and bone structure. We have also noted that the presence of the fluid has forced over 1,000 victims of the explosions and the gas into comas. Interestingly, the brain of the victims seem to be in overdrive once the coma kicks in. The reason for this is currently unclear. We can confirm that none of the casualties have officially died as of now. However, several are in intensive care with severe illness and injury. We have faith that our NHS will treat them to the best of its ability to grant them the best possible chance of survival. We understand that the green gas will drift over the north-east of England by 7 p.m. tomorrow evening. Despite the government's best efforts, it is not guaranteed that every citizen will be supplied with a breather mask in time. Due to this, we have some information to provide for you. If you are located anywhere from Newcastle in the north to Hull in the south and west to Leeds, you will be in danger of receiving the gas first. Thus, we suggest the following. If you are able, and have a suitable location to travel to, make your way to the south, or to the north of Scotland. There will be special police units patrolling the north-east over the next 24 hours to ensure this is done in a safe and secure manner. We emphasize that this is for those of you who have a safe destination to travel to. We do not recommend everyone travel without an end location, as the roads will clog and infrastructure will suffer. For those of you who don't have somewhere to travel to, there are two options available. The first is that military patrols will be arriving throughout the north-east to escort the elderly and vulnerable to several designated military barracks, which will provide shelter during this time. The second is for those who are able-bodied and at home. You are first to gather as much food and water together as possible. We believe that 2 weeks' worth of food should be sufficient. We must emphasize how important sufficient water is to your survival. Make sure any and all safe containers are filled with water to last for the entire duration of this situation. Your next goal is to barricade any and all entry points into your home with both furniture and fabric sheets. This includes doors, windows, vents, and thin walls. This is because you need to do everything possible to keep the gas out of your home. If even a small amount of the gas enters your body, it will expand and you will be in serious trouble in terms of your health and well-being. We do not anticipate any issues with keeping electricity functional and working, and so you should still be able to receive information from us via methods such as television or mobile phone. However, we do recommend a battery-powered radio just in case of emergency. We understand this is a sudden and scary situation. However, we are working alongside our European allies at a fast pace to work out how to counteract the spread of the gas. If you do suffer a medical emergency that isn't gas-related while inside your shelter, there will be limited aid able to be provided. We recommend phoning 999 and informing them of your situation. They will give you as much advice as possible over the phone. Physical aid may not, however, be possible. This is a frightening situation for all in the nation, and we understand you may be scared, but trust that we are doing everything possible to help you in this situation. A further broadcast will be made tomorrow afternoon with further updates and tips on how to best prepare for tomorrow's arrival. We thank you for your cooperation and wish you the best. Thank you.
We can now bring you images of some eerily abandoned streets in the north of England taken via drone cameras showing the thick green mist settling across the UK. The gas began to drift across the coastal shores of the nation at around 1 a.m. this morning, but over the last 6 hours, wind patterns have pushed it inland and now most cities across the northeast have been almost entirely swallowed by the gas. We understand that the emergency services functioning within that area are being swarmed with 999 calls by those who have been exposed to the gas and need assistance. However, the shortage of numbers available to the emergency services means that many are having to wait a significantly long time before any kind of help can be brought to them. Flights across the UK and Western Europe have been halted during this crisis as much of the continent is also tackling the same issue as here, with Germany, Denmark and Norway currently also significantly coated in the gas, and the Benelux nations and France expecting to receive the gas over the coming hours. In other news, the St George's Hospital in Tooting, London, is currently under lockdown after reports of severe violence against staff and patients inside were reported. Interestingly, St George's was designated the primary care facility for rescued workers from the oil rig explosions in the North Sea several days ago. The nature of the exact attacks here are currently unclear. However, we understand that armed police have been deployed to the scene and are currently being advised by hospital staff on the nature of the incident. A staff member at the hospital told BBC News moments ago that the scene inside is of complete panic and that numerous medical professionals have been severely injured by the attacks. We still don't know the actual nature of the attacks, whether they have been committed by patients or not, but we do know that a developing incident is taking place within the hospital itself. We do now have a voice recording from Dr. William Kent, who was present within the area of the hospital when the attack started. Let's see what he had to say moments ago to BBC News.
Several oil rig workers deteriorated overnight. The skin began to turn a sickly grey. Their breathing, it became unnatural. The pattern of breath was weird, so we rushed them down to a special intensive care unit that we've got set up for the oil rig workers. And we were working on clearing their airways, specifically their lungs, their general respiratory system. Some organ flushing was also involved. But after a little while inside the unit, the most severe of the patients inside, they began to exhibit physical changes, mostly in the face, but in the veins also. The veins began to darken quite significantly. Their eyes, they began to lose colour. They became bloodshot. It was basically, just two black dots with bloodshot veins all around. The skin itself that began to crack around the mouth, the nose, the eyes. But more worryingly to us, the patients began foaming the black and green phlegm from their mouths. We rushed to try and clear their airways, but patients who, up until this point, some who had been comatose or those that were severely ill and hardly even noticed us, they began to open their eyes, they began to stare dead at us. It was surreal. I've never seen something like that before. Several staff members, including myself, just sort of stopped working. It was so unnerving to see patients who were practically unresponsive moments ago now staring through us. But that's when it started to happen. We tried to clear the airways of the patients and they began vomiting, but this wasn't like illness, when you're sick into the bowl provided for you. This was projectile sickness targeted at us. They were directing their vomit right at us. A good few staff members got hit, and that worried me deeply because we've seen that it's not just the gas that needs to be inhaled to cause these symptoms. If that fluid is ingested, it brings on the same symptoms and sometimes a lot quicker. So we rushed out these doctors to be washed and cleaned, and tried to restrain some of these patients, but those who were vomiting began to act aggressively. They were shaking, almost vibrating. They were constantly seeping this fluid, vomiting everywhere. But then they started to show the first signs of violence. They began to screech. It was something like I've never heard before. It sounded almost metallic, this screech. And they just started launching themselves at staff. Scratching, attempting to bite. They were beating staff. I mean, the worst thing I saw was a young junior doctor. God bless her. She'd only been with us a few weeks. A patient had struck her to the ground and mounted her on top of her and was just pouring vomit and fluid into her face, and she was violently shaking on the floor. It was horrific. I can't explain it. I feel like a coward, but I just had to get out of there. I had to get out of there.
That was Dr. William Kent, a member of staff within St. George's as the situation developing inside began to happen. It does now seem that we can confirm the attacks are indeed caused by those oil rig workers which were transported to the hospital several days ago for specialist treatment. Although not confirmed, it does seem as though the effect the green gas had on them has begun to alter their behavior, seemingly making them more primal and violent, as well as the projectile vomiting of the black and green fluid inside their bodies towards the staff attempting to aid them. We do now have a statement from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, on the incident developing within St. George's Hospital. He has said, quote, "We currently are undergoing two extremely dangerous and hard-to-manage situations within this nation. Firstly, the spread of the green gas which has now been labelled by scientists studying it as miasma. Currently the miasma gas is covering and settling over a large part of the north of England, and over the coming hours will start to drift over much of Yorkshire and the northern Midlands of England, as well as slowly drifting north towards Scotland. My thoughts are with those currently stuck inside their shelters within the reach of the miasma gas. Secondly, the St. George's Hospital within Tooting, London, is currently in lockdown after it was confirmed several of the casualties from the oil rig disaster a few days ago began to attack staff in a very brutal and unexpected manner. Virologists and medical professionals are currently working hard to understand the nature of these attacks. Armed police and specialist medical personnel as well as hazardous materials units have been deployed to the hospital to attempt to stop the violence and ensure the safety of the staff and patients within. We understand this is a testing and worrying time for the nation, but we assure you, we are doing everything we can to resolve this issue. We recommend those of you who possess a breather mask by now to be wearing it even if you aren't in an area currently occupied by the gas. This is because we don't have a timescale on how long it will take to remove the gas, and thus, we believe it important for the population to become familiar and comfortable with the masks in use. We also do not yet know whether there is an uncolored portion of the gas which may be spreading. If this is the case, some may be exposed to the side effects of the gas without being within the spread zone. We urge the public to remain calm and listen closely to the public safety broadcasts programmed to release throughout the day. We will get through this trying time together. That was a message from the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, regarding the ongoing situations across the UK. We understand that similar attacks have now taken place in hospitals within Oslo, Norway, Copenhagen, Denmark, and Hamburg, Germany. The actions described are extremely similar to that which is happening in London, with patients showing severe physical deterioration and vomiting towards staff, as well as attempting to attack those aiding them. We understand that armed police have been deployed to several affected hospitals across Europe.
This is the emergency alert system on behalf of His Majesty's government. Please stand by. This is the emergency alert system on behalf of His Majesty's government. We can confirm that a catastrophic breach of quarantine has occurred around St. George's Hospital in Tooting, London. Earlier, reports of patients physically changing and becoming violent circulated the media. These patients were mainly those caught in the explosions aboard the North Sea oil rigs days ago. Simultaneously, dozens of patients, who were suffering from a range of different illnesses and injuries, began to transform rapidly. Their skin began to crack and change color. Their eyes lost almost all color apart from a deep black dot in both eyes, as well as bulging blood-shot vessels in the eyes. Their veins began to swell outwards whilst being full of thick black fluid. Even more horrifying is that black and green fluid began to pour and shoot from openings within their bodies, including the mouth, nose, eyes and ears. Various cuts or tears in their skin also began seeping this fluid. This is a physical state which we have never encountered before. The only thing even remotely similar to these symptoms would be an extreme form of rabies. However, these symptoms are almost entirely unique. We have observed that ingestion of this fluid, which is now believed to be linked to the miasma gas, which was released in the North Sea days ago, causes these symptoms to occur. However, the level of ingestion directly correlates to how quick the transformation into the violent and unsettling state some infected patients are now in takes place. Ingestion of small amounts of fluid will still cause severe respiratory issues. However, the long-term transformation of the victim can still take days to complete. If someone is pinned down by an infected person and exposed to high levels of fluid, however, their body can go into shock, violently fitting before rapidly transforming into a feral-like state. More details on the severity of this infection will be provided in due course. However, we have to inform you that several patients have managed to force their way out of the hospital and are now loose within London. Armed police units, which entered the hospital, have lost contact with their commanders and are presumed to be either severely injured or maybe even dead after coming into contact with these infected individuals. Due to this, the entire City of London is to be placed under martial law. Everyone must return home and stay there indefinitely until the all clear is given. If you encounter someone which you believe may be infected, get away from them as quickly as possible. They have been recorded spitting infectious fluid well over 5 meters ahead of them, meaning they don't have to catch you to do severe harm. Once in a safe location, dial 999 and give whatever information you have to the police. Both armed police and military assets within the city are being deployed, and both have an authorized shoot-on-sight policy against the infected individuals due to the severe threat they pose to the public. Scientists are still attempting to fully understand this condition the patients currently have, and although no full explanation has yet been discovered, several links between the current state of the victims and the exposure to the miasma gas have been made. This leads us on to our second point. Any citizens currently residing within miasma-covered areas are to cover their faces with several layers of fabric if no breather mask is available. You must do everything within your power to not inhale the gas. In such large quantities like across much of the north of England, if inhaled, a fast and painful transformation will begin to occur. If you, or anyone you know, has been exposed to this gas, or is showing signs of transformation, separate you or them from anyone else in your location. Barricade the infected person in a secure location within your place or residence and call 999. Specialist police units may be able to assist you. The current ongoing crisis has been declared a critical state of emergency within the nation. We will do everything in our power to aid you during this time. Keep listening to the radio for further updates and information on the spread of the gas and the infected. Stay calm, stay healthy, stay alive. Good luck. This is the emergency alert system on behalf of His Majesty's government. Please stand by. This is the emergency alert system on behalf of His Majesty's government. Over the past 24 hours, the country has entered a dark and dangerous chapter. We have observed the spread of what we now know to be an extremely infectious gas across much of northern England, southern Scotland, and the Midlands, while severely dangerous infection outbreaks have occurred within the capital city of London. We have updates on these situations, as well as the scientific knowledge of the miasma gas to share with you. First, the gas is now engulfing a significant amount of the United Kingdom. Our first predicted spread models have been revised, and now we believe that the entirety of the UK and Ireland could actually be covered by midnight tonight. Due to this, we are accelerating our mask dispersal program across all currently unaffected areas of the United Kingdom. These dispersals will be undertaken by members of the armed forces who themselves will be wearing cutting-edge protective clothing to limit their exposure to the gas. However, anyone and everyone outside while the gas is spreading is putting themselves in danger of infection. If you receive an emergency alert tailored to your city or location, over the next 12 hours you are to obey and cooperate with any and all requests made of you by the armed forces. This will make the distribution of protective masks as quick and as efficient as possible under the current circumstances. However, due to the speed of the spread, some hard choices have had to be made. Those of you who don't receive a location-specific emergency alert by 2 p.m. this afternoon are unfortunately either already in the spread zone, or are deemed to be within the zone of danger, an area around the outskirts of the spread, which is deemed extremely deadly in terms of possible infection, and thus, no distribution of masks will be made around your location. Your goal is to continue sticking to the plan given to you previously by the government. Stay indoors, keep the gas out, ration your food and water, and stay safe. There is a new directive to listen to also. If you see anyone walking, crawling, running, or shuffling about outside your location in miasma-affected areas, do not interact with them. Stay away from all windows and doors. If you hear screaming, metallic grinding, crying, shouting, or vocal mimicking, stay silent. Do not respond, do not draw attention to yourself, and do not make them aware of your presence. This is because it is now predicted that enough exposure to the gas has been available over the past hours that many within the north of England, who were stuck outside when the gas hit, would have transformed by now into the ferals, similar to London. These are dangerously sick people, and they will do anything to harm you. The reasons for this will be explained momentarily. In London, the infection continues to spread. The police and the military have begun gunning down infected individuals. However, infected numbers seem much higher than anticipated. The infected also seem to spew fluids when they die, making it very easy for the person firing at them to receive a lethal dose of the infectious fluids. The infected have been spotted violently beating people in the streets, while vomiting liters of fluid into the faces of victims, transforming them almost instantly into infected beings themselves. Social media has begun referring to these individuals as zombies. However, we are hesitant to accept this trope due to the nature of the infection. Scientists have discovered through study that the miasma gas seems to react within the body of human beings like an expanding foam, however, in a much more sinister way. When the gas enters the body, it begins to transform into liquid form due to a reaction with the oxygen and the water within the human body. From there, the now liquid miasma begins circling the respiratory system, slowly eating away at the fluids and the flesh within the body. This is why severe coughing begins due to debris forming within the lungs of the human host. As the symptoms worsen, the liquid starts spreading to other organs, as well as muscles and even bone. Slowly, they begin to melt away all tissue, bone, and liquid within the human body, replacing them with a thick and expanding liquid that begins coagulating where the organs used to be. Obviously, this process is extremely painful for the host. This happens across the entire body, apart from part of the spinal cord, the brain stem, the brain itself, and the eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. Once the fluid has dissolved everything within the body of the host, it begins interacting with the brainstem of the host, somehow keeping the being alive, while almost their entire body has been decimated. Here, it uses the intense pain the host is feeling to repurpose the brain's primary functions and begin overtaking motor control of the host. Now, the body will be put in survival mode, angrily lashing out at any other living thing and expelling the liquid within the body at others. We believe this to be an attempt by the brain to retain some form of life force, by ridding itself of the liquid through any and all openings available. At this point, although the liquid has almost complete control of the body, the brain still functions, and technically the host is still alive in some capacity. An horrific fate, no doubt, and we can only imagine the torturous pain these individuals are experiencing. However, we must urge you all to put aside your empathy now. They will try to kill you. They will hunt you, pin you down, beat you, even murder you, but all with the goal of ridding the liquid from their bodies and filling yours with it. You must by any means necessary stay away from the infected and from the gas. The military and the police are doing everything they can to battle against infected individuals, but the spread is happening quicker than we can contain. As a government, we have to be honest with you in this trying time. A plan on how to deal with this is yet to be confirmed. It is such a uniquely dangerous situation that we frankly do not know what way to best combat this. It is a very real possibility that very quickly, there could be millions of infected roaming the streets, and at that point, the nation would collapse. We will keep fighting, and keep working on a survival plan, however one isn't guaranteed. Experts believe that if no countermeasure to the spread of the gas specifically is created, we could be looking at worldwide infection by the end of this week, and the possibility of human extinction within a month. A bleak future, one we are determined to avoid. However, we do need to be honest with you. For now, we ask you to remain in your shelters. Stay warm, stay fed, albeit through rationing food and drink, and most importantly, stay alive. Don't breathe the gas, don't approach the infected, don't make unnecessary sound. Good luck, and God bless you all. Thank you.
This is the emergency alert system on behalf of His Majesty's government. Please stand by. This is the emergency alert system on behalf of His Majesty's government. Over the past 2 days, the remaining functional underground research labs studying the miasma gas have discovered a heartbreaking development. We understand that the miasma gas has begun to react aggressively against the presence of standing water, as well as oxygen and nitrogen within the atmosphere. Still functioning long-range science buoys have begun to report significantly lowered ocean levels globally, with a 5% decrease on this point last week. As well as this, we understand that oxygen and nitrogen levels have begun to drop, with oxygen levels globally standing around 18% and nitrogen around 71%. Meaning a 7% drop in nitrogen levels and a 3% drop in oxygen levels, made up by miasma. It is now that we can confirm the miasma gas is acting as a terraforming agent on our world. It seems to be transforming both land and life alike. For what purpose still remains unclear. However, we can also confirm that several cross-species contamination events have taken place, with dogs, cats, certain birds, and cattle now showing signs of infection. Scientists here remaining in the UK, and those we still have contact with abroad, are yet to identify any form of countermeasure, and it is now widely feared that one will not be found. We believe the population of the United Kingdom has dropped to around 7 million, meaning around 90% of the pre-miasma population has either died or become infected with the gas. With the discovery of miasma eating away at the atmosphere, however, it only seems a matter of time before many more perish. Once oxygen levels begin to hit around 14% and lower, significant negative effects upon the human body will occur. When oxygen hits 10%, we are in critical danger, and 8% and below is almost certain death due to unbreathable air. We have no way of currently stopping this decrease, and thus, at a certain point, even our breather masks will become useless, as there will not be enough oxygenated air to filter for us to breathe. The Earth will suffocate, as will humanity. However, the remaining experts alive continue to work, and if any possible solution is to be found, they will find out. We ask you all to cling on to your faith. Make peace with the world in case the worst comes to pass. We will do everything we can to save our world. We will fight miasma for as long as we can.
Anyone hearing this, my name is Amelia West. I worked for the BBC before Miasma. I would program all the emergency alert system messages and make sure the broadcasts went out on time. I'm delivering this message from an emergency room below a BBC studio in central London. I think I might be the last person alive in this city. I'm giving this message on text-to-speech because I physically can't bring myself to speak. The air is too thin. It hurts my lungs to even try. My head burns from the lack of air. I think I probably have a form of brain damage from oxygen deprivation. Everyone probably does now though. There was a team of 30 of us down here just a week ago. Now, just me. I can't get any signal from any other nations. The last I heard was a plea for help in Buenos Aires around 40 minutes ago. Now, there's nothing. The airways are silent. I don't even know if I've got the power to broadcast this message still, but I'm gonna try. I'm sending this out because the infected have finally breached the lower levels, and I can hear them approaching through the stairwells. It's pretty intricate down here, so I have time to type this out. I think anyway. I just want to say, this is it. The final hour. Oxygen levels on planet Earth have officially dropped to below 6%. Meaning death by suffocation will occur relatively quickly to us all now. I think that's a mercy really, rather than being swarmed by those creatures. To think they used to be us, scientists thought they still are. If they're right, then that is what is going to inherit the Earth. The next step in human evolution. Whatever the case may be, I won't live to see it. I saved one bullet in my pistol for this moment. I will not become one of them. I could leave you with a song, with an anthem, with a prayer or the sound of silence. I'm going to leave this world with a poem, something which resonates so strongly with this very moment. For we, humanity, fought against it all, even to our dying breath. And if the Earth can remember something, anything beyond that deep green fog which has burned everything away, it'll remember humanity, our people, until the end of time. Then out spake brave Horatius, the captain of the gate. To every man upon this earth, death cometh soon or late. And how can man die better, than facing fearful odds? For the ashes of his fathers, and the temples of his gods. Good night, Earth. Good night.